On the second night of a back-to-back set and taking on the reigning champion Golden State Warriors, Miami got incredible performances from Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo, who combined for 53 points, ultimately a wasted effort and a tough loss. Can the Heat take something positive from this loss, or did it just expose weaknesses they already had? We break it all down on today's Locked On Heat.
You are Locked On Heat, your daily Miami Heat podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, welcome to Locked On Heat, your daily podcast on the Miami Heat. However you might be tuning in on YouTube, Odyssey, or on your favorite podcast app, thank you for making Locked On Heat your first listen every day. I'm Wes Goldberg here with David Ramil. Well, playing on the second night of a back-to-back following a big win in Portland, the Heat lost to the Warriors in San Francisco, 123-110, in what was a really fun game. Jimmy Butler, 27 points, 8 assists, 6 rebounds, 6 steals. Bam added 26 points, and the Heat trailed by only 5 heading into the fourth quarter. But that's when Steph Curry scored 10 of his 33 points in that final 7 minutes to put the Heat away and spoil what would have been the best win of the season. David, we'll do blame pie in a little bit, and we've got a Omer Yurtseven question and a Tyler Herro question to get to. But can you walk away from this one feeling good, considering how the Heat played, again, second night of a back-to-back against the defending champs, or can I just miss you with the moral victories?
A little bit of both. I think they can take positives. We're starting to see a return to Miami and finding the identity that we thought they'd have going into the season. Fast-paced offense. There was a lot of ball movement early on, some great shot selection, a lot of great shots being hit. Jimmy Butler continuing to stretch the floor as a legitimate three-point shooter. Who saw that development taking place against the Golden State Warriors? He might have been second to Steph Curry, the best shooter on the floor. I guess that Klay Thompson guy, not bad himself. But Jimmy, fantastic. Bam, aggressive. Kyle Lowry, a solid overall bounce-back game. Max Strus also solid off the bench. Those were the positives. And look, they were able to hang their head on a lot of positive things, a lot of great defensive possessions too, breaking up passing lanes, just like we saw against Portland. A lot of activity there, a lot of hands there, making sure that ball handlers were uncomfortable, making sure that they could force turnovers. They did get a pretty solid job overall. They both had a number of blocks too. Bam had like 4 blocks in the night. So great game overall for him. I don't know. I guess there were some positives there, but yes, you wanted to have a stronger effort from some of the bench or supporting players.
Right. Well, before you get to the negatives, let's stay on the positives at least, since it's almost 1 a.m. It's our rules. You mentioned the blocks and the steals, 16 steals, 5 block shots for the Heat tonight. Let's go back to Jimmy Butler and the 3-point shooting.
Too good.
4 of 7 from 3-point range. He looks so comfortable taking that shot, not just tonight, David, all the time. Every time he takes that shot, he can take it from the corner. He can take it from above the break. He has a really good shooting form. In the playoffs, it's there. He takes threes. Right. We saw this in the historic playoff run that he had last season. I don't know why he doesn't take threes all the time. He should be averaging, to me, 5 to 7 3-pointers a game easily. And it's one of the big questions we had going into the season is whether or not Jimmy Butler would do that. When he is shooting threes like this, I don't know that we could overstate the importance of it to the offense, because going into a game, if Jimmy Butler's not shooting threes, and I know that everybody wants Bam to take threes, right? But he's not proven at the NBA level. Even if he starts stepping out for a couple of games, defenses aren't going to respect him. They're not going to close out on him, and you're not creating the space that you're hoping to get. We'll see if that evolution to Bam's game comes one day. But right now, it's not part of it. Jimmy Butler has proven that he can make those threes consistently. He just doesn't do it. It's similar almost to Dwayne Wade, but I think Jimmy Butler is a much better three-point shooter than Dwayne Wade ever was, even though Dwayne Wade could get streaky at times. When he's doing this, it just opens up everything, because like I said, going in, if you've got Jimmy and Bam who just aren't taking threes, Caleb Martin's a fine three-point shooter, but defenses don't really care about him. It's really just Tyler Herro, who's streaky, and we'll talk about him, and then Kyle Lowry, who, again, at this age, at 36, is also kind of streaky. So you don't really have a bona fide three-point shooter. You need everybody to contribute. And all of a sudden, when Jimmy Butler is taking those threes, the entire offense opens up. And the ball movement is so much better. And it's easier for Bam to be aggressive the way that people want him to. 10 of 13 tonight for Bam Adebayo. Got to the free throw line a bunch too. 6 of 8 from the line. And then you look at Miami's offense overall. Some of it is in part because they were playing Golden State and you just tend to take more threes when you play the Warriors. But they took 43 3-pointers tonight. David, you knew I was going to bring it up. I love that number for them.
Yeah, it's perfect. It's exactly what they should have been. And look, I think Jimmy's performance was probably atypical, at least from 3-point range. I just don't know that he's going to continue to do this. But, he took one shot, I think, with the shot clock expired. I can't recall if it was at the end of a quarter or at the end of the first half. Either way, some of the shots were just, look, I'm in a corner. I think there was one time where there was a fast break opportunity. He had the ball in the corner. He was like, you know what? Let it fly. And he did. Another time he's being guarded by Draymond. Sizing up the shot clock. Yeah. He looked comfortable, and he just took a right in Draymond's face, and he just he walked away.
Why doesn't he take it more? You just said you don't think that this is going to continue, and I agree with you. But why? Why does this not happen more?
I don't know. I think he's just an overall reliance and comfort level on being able to do what he has done so effectively over the course of his career, which is draw fouls, get to the rim, get good looks there, and just put the defense on its heels and create shot opportunities for others along the perimeter, because he just doesn't see himself that way. I don't know. That's my 2 cents.
You can do both. I know you're right. No, I understand you're just trying to find an answer because I asked you a direct question, but you could do both. You could do both things. I do have a bone to pick with Jimmy Butler, but we're going to get to that in Blame Pie here in a little bit. But you had some negatives too from the night. I don't know if you want to save that from Blame Pie. Are we done with the positives? Because overall, I do think that, again, you don't want to kind of swim in the waters of moral victories, but considering the opponent, considering it was the second night of a back-to-back, and just considering how well they played, I thought they played a really good game overall. Yeah. And I do think that there's going to be a lot to take from this, right? Every loss is a learning lesson. Every coach will tell you. The learning lesson to me is keep shooting threes like this and crank up the pace a little bit, because I do think the pace overall benefited the Warriors, but I think the Heat would benefit from just ratcheting up the pace a little bit more versus where they're at right now, which is, again, like every season, near the bottom of the league.
I felt watching this game, one thing stuck out to me, like we were robbed of an all-time fantastic NBA Finals, because I think Miami, echoing what Antoine Walker said on our podcast, I think Miami would have had a better chance against Golden State than Boston did. And I don't know if it's just the way that team was built last season with PJ Tucker and Lowry being in a little bit better shape, maybe. I don't know. Things would have broken better for Miami, I think, going up against Golden State than they did for Boston. But either way, it was a great performance tonight.
I would have loved to see Jimmy Butler in that finals, and just coming off of that Boston finals and how he was playing. I don't know if his body would have held up for another full series. Boston's didn't.
Well past it. But missed the first month of the season or something like that. But that's what
I wouldn't care if it meant another trip to the finals. I would have done another 2020, 2021 season where you just sort of everybody's just injured and sick all the time. I would have been fine with it. Bam Adebayo, I thought, had a really impressive game. I really just enjoyed how physical he was against the Warriors. And so often, like you said, like I just got done talking about, when you play Golden State, you kind of start playing into their game, style. Right? Their style, up and down, not very physical, a little bit more finesse. And you're a jump shooting team, and that's where the Warriors beat you, is because they're the best jump shooting team in the league, or have been over the last decade. And most teams can't keep up, right? And that's kind of how they get you. But I think that's sort of the impressive thing about Bam Adebayo, is he could do the finesse stuff because he can run up and down the floor as fast as anybody. He could switch and he could do all these things, but he can also play physical. He can also get in there and do center things. And I thought Bam overall, like I just said, 10 of 13 overall, 8 rebounds, 26 points, the 4 steals, the 3 blocks. I thought it was a really impressive game for him too.
Yeah, they absolutely deserve their flowers. There was one play in particular, I think I can't recall who it was, that he caught a pocket pass from, either Tyler or Kyle, and then he went flying into the lane, got bodied up by JaMychal Green, and Green went flying off of him. Like, Bam's in the air, and somehow Green winds up going 5 feet backwards, stumbling into the out of bounds and fouling Bam in the process. He wasn't able to finish the basket, but that was just such an impressive display of incredible strength and physicality from Bam. And the aggression was there. The touch was there. Took a couple of jumpers, was comfortable Was it taking too long in between as he wasn't holding the ball as he has been
No,
at
good
times
point.
throughout the
In
season?
rhythm, right? They're playing off of him a little bit, kind of giving him that 15-footer, but he was stepping into him in rhythm and making them,
Yeah,
right? And when
sure.
he's got that going, it opens up everything else. We do have some negatives to get to. We'll get to that
Oh,
in the
yeah.
blame pie. I actually have to talk to you about Jimmy Butler as much as we like the game. I have an issue with how he ended up finishing the game. We'll get to that next, but first, tell the listeners about PrizePicks, David.
Oh, PrizePicks. It's it's making it easy for you to pick your favorite players and to make a little extra money on the side of it. How does it work? You pick 2 to 5 players, and if they score more or less in their PrizePicks projection, you can win up to 10 times your money on any entry. It's no competing against other people. It's just you versus the projections available. PrizePicks offers projections of any sports that you watch, includes the NBA, NFL, Major League Baseball, college football, men's college basketball, and so many others. Entries can be made in 60 seconds or less. It's that easy. It's safe and fast withdrawals, and they're currently operational in over 30 states and Canada. You can download the PrizePicks app or go to prizepicks.com to sign up and play daily fantasy sports. First-time users can receive a 100% instant deposit match up to $100 with a promo code LOCKEDON. If you deposit $100, PrizePicks will give you $100 back. It's that easy. If you deposit $50, PrizePicks will give you $50 back. Don't forget to enter the promo code LOCKEDON at sign up for an instant deposit match up to $100. That's PrizePicks. Go to the app or prizepicks.com. Sign up today.
Thank you for making Locked On Heat your first listen today. Now make your second listen game to game NBA. Every moment, every top performance, every result. Locked On Game to Game covers every game from across the NBA with local analysis that only Locked On can deliver. Follow Game to Game on the Locked On NBA podcast feed. It's available on the Odyssey app, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts. Well, David, that smell you smell is the smelly smell of another smelly loss, so it is time to hand out some blame pie. I'm going to get us started here, and I think I'm going to surprise a lot of people when I say I'm starting with Jimmy Butler. I'm starting with Jimmy Butler.
That's impossible. That is absolutely objectively erroneous. I know who the blame pie goes to today, and it certainly isn't Jimmy Butler. But go ahead. Let me hear your 2 cents on this.
Well, give us a sneak peek. Just give me names.
Tyler Herro. How about that?
All right.
That's the only name that matters.
I agree. But I want to start with Jimmy.
Okay.
He had a great game tonight. No doubt about it. The reason the Heat were in this game was because of Jimmy Butler. Yep. That said, I know we just got done doing a whole segment about moral victories and just feel-good stuff, but Jimmy Butler ain't here for moral victories. And Jimmy Butler is supposed to be one of the 10 best players in the league. And you're going up against another top 10 player in the league in Steph Curry. And let's just compare fourth quarters. Jimmy Butler and Steph Curry keeping their teams afloat through 3 quarters, right? No doubt about it. Steph wasn't getting a whole lot of help. Andrew Wiggins was on the boards. Klay Thompson, Jordan Poole made some timely baskets, but none of them were blowing up, right? He didn't have a Bam Adebayo tonight. Steph Curry didn't. Jimmy Butler did. But when it is crunch time and it's time to take your team home, Steph Curry did it with 10 points in the fourth quarter. What did Jimmy Butler do in the fourth quarter? 1 shot attempt, 1 point in the fourth quarter. He took 12 shots from quarters 1 through 3. 1 shot in the entire fourth quarter. When in that important pocket of the game, and I tweeted this, David, that first 5 to 6 minute stretch of the fourth quarter when Steph Curry usually sits, Jimmy Butler also sits. And that lead was starting to slip a little bit. That deficit was starting to grow for Miami. And I thought Eric Spoelstra made a really smart coaching decision. He said, you know what? Our guys, none of them played 30 minutes last night after the blowout in Portland. So I'm gonna go ahead and play Jimmy Butler 2 more minutes. I'm gonna get him in at the 8.5 minute mark. He did that, and I thought, hey, maybe this is where the Heat win the game. And then Jimmy Butler proceeded to just do nothing. All right. And again, it's hard to put so much blame on Jimmy Butler, but when you're the dude in the fourth quarter is when you got to step up, and he disappeared. As impressive as it was in the first half, he disappeared in the fourth quarter. If he was playing in the fourth quarter the way that he was in the first half of that game, I think the Heat probably win this game, but he wasn't.
I don't blame him. I really don't. I think part of Jimmy's frustration, nothing that he's vocalized or anything like that, is wanting the other guys in the team to step up, whether it's Tyler, Bam, Kyle, or anybody else, because we see what Jimmy can do. There's no questioning whether or not he's able and willing to do it when it matters most in the playoffs. Yes, aside from his bad run against the Milwaukee Bucks a couple of seasons ago, he's been fantastic in a Heat uniform, and he continues to be so during the regular season, and we expect that he will be in the playoffs this season as well. I think he just was hoping that somebody else would rise to the challenge.
Well, then I still
and
blame
maybe
him because that's stupid. Way would you do that? You have a chance to win the game. Erik Spoelstra's putting you 2 minutes in earlier than your usual substitution
He's also
pattern
not
in order to
he's
win
not-
the game.
he's not the player that Steph is. What's he going to do? Attack? He wasn't getting a friendly whistle. He was getting some calls early on. I don't think that was the strength of his game tonight, just based on Golden State's defense.
He got to the free throw line 7 times.
I'm sorry?
Jimmy Butler got to the free throw line 7 times, went 7 of 7. I don't care what I hear everything you're saying, but like I don't really care. I don't know why he just you ask what he was supposed to do. Do what you were doing for the first 3 quarters of the game.
Maybe. I'd have to rewatch it. I don't think he got nearly as many opportunities, and maybe, like I said, I think he was trying to see if somebody else would have stepped up to the opportunity. It's just a game in November or October or whatever. I know you had a chance to win it, and it does matter, but it also doesn't matter. Like I don't think this is going to define Miami season. So
Jimmy Butler
one slice.
I'm giving him 6. I'm giving him 6.
6 slices.
I'm giving him 6.
No way. I'm off. I can't do this. There's no way that we're giving Jimmy Butler, who had like a top 5 NBA performance tonight, like a top 5 player, like between what he did defensively, what he did offensively,
for
saying that he took the foot off the gas a little bit late in the fourth quarter when the rhythm was already clearly going Golden State's way, does not earn him that. Not when Tyler's shooting goddamn 33% from the field.
Steph won the game for the Warriors. Jimmy Butler had a chance to win the game for the Heat, and he didn't. Yeah,
all
right. Okay. I'll go down one. All right, I'll go down one.
The loss is on Tyler. Tyler lost the game for Miami, not Jimmy.
All right.
So
how much blame pie do you want to give Tyler Herro?
At least half. You can give some to Gabe, although he had some moments later on.
I'm going to give
his minutes didn't play well. Nikola Jovic was
Jimmy Butler gets 4. I'll come down. I'll compromise because I'm a good co-host. I'm going to give Jimmy Butler 4. Tyler Herro gets 4.
That is horrific.
I don't know how much of, and I've got 2 more that I want to give.
I can't believe you're equating Jimmy not continuing what he was doing for 5 minutes there when Steph was catching fire and there's nothing Miami could do. Like they're already down 8 at that point. I don't see why he's like, oh, okay, I'm going to start matching
because
the best
Tyler
Herro
wasn't
history shot for shot.
Tyler Herro isn't going to win this game for the Heat tonight. Jimmy Butler was.
He would have if he goes 5 for 12 instead of 3 for 12.
He's 3 for 12, 1 of 5 from 3-point range. He had a bad game. I think him and Jimmy Butler deserve equal blame to this. And I know everybody in the comments are gonna call me crazy, but I'm sorry. I'm just holding Jimmy Butler to a higher.
Fan, Wes. You're not a fan.
I have no idea what that means or has to do with any of this. Jimmy Butler, it's just the bar is higher for him. It's just higher for him than it is for Tyler Herro. I'm also going to give 2 slices to Max Strus. I thought he actually played a really poor game. -16 overall. I know he had 14 points off the bench. If you want to get stuck, you being the listener, want to get stuck on the box score stuff, go ahead, like the counting stats. You look at how many offensive rebounds. And we should actually explain why it is that the Warriors won this game. It was second chance points and the offensive rebounds. I mean, the difference was so dramatic. The Warriors had 27 second chance points. The Heat had 8. The Heat allowed 16 offensive rebounds. Go back and watch the film. Max Strus was allowing a lot of them. So was Gabe Vincent, and so was Kyle Lowry. Some of that was just based on the matchups that Erik Spoelstra had. He was putting Lowry on Draymond Green. Strus was matched up on Wiggins a whole lot. But guys just weren't boxing out in the way that they had to. They were just not prepared. And Andrew Wiggins, I thought, really, and Draymond Green both just feasted on the offensive boards. So I'm going to give 2 slices to Max Strus for just not boxing out. But we can split that up among the other backups like Duncan Robinson, Gabe Vincent if you want. Go either way on that.
A quarter slice of pie there. I'm still like reeling from Jimmy being the reason why. Like that is some faulty.
You and I have not
assessment.
Yeah,
there.
You and I don't really disagree on this stuff very much. This is the first fight we've had about blame pie. So
no, it's just to me like I look at blame pie and who's to blame for the loss. It's not that Jimmy wasn't aggressive in the fourth. Like, I mean, Jimmy already had, to your point, like maybe he took 1 shot in the fourth quarter, but he already had 27 points. Like,
why did he only take 13 shots in the game on a night that Steph Curry took 22? If you're one of those dudes, I know that Jimmy Butler's a 2-way player and all this other stuff, and he doesn't play the same game as Steph, but sometimes I just don't care. Sometimes if you're Jimmy Butler and you're 8 for 13 and you got the 3-point shot going, you should not be just taking 1 shot in the fourth quarter. I'm sorry. He needs, the standard is high for players like that. We see it all the time. And I don't think that we should shy away from holding Jimmy Butler to that standard. All right, we do have some questions about Big Yurt and why they weren't playing Tyler Herro at the end of the game. We're going to get to that next here on Locked On Heat. Back here with Locked On Heat, time to get to some listener questions. We'll just get started with this one from Timmy, who writes in. It's insane to me that this team has more confidence in Max Strus at the end of a game than they do Tyler Herro, who they just gave a huge contract. If that's the case, why give the contract? It's a good question. I do have a quick stat for you, David. Going into tonight, because the stats on NBA.com have not updated as we started recording this yet. Max Strus, 7.7 fourth quarter minutes this season for the Heat. Tyler Herro, 6.9. Obviously, Strus in there to end the game tonight. What do you think about that question?
I think you give that contract not just based on what he's done, but also what he's going to do. So that kind of erases the validity of even bringing up the contract. Why do they give it to him? Because he's 21 years old, because he's going to continue to get better, because whatever he is now is not who he's going to be throughout the length of the contract. They expect him to grow. And I think that's a pretty safe bet, considering that we've already seen 3 years of growth during the first 3 seasons of his career, evolving into what he was last year, which was a top end scorer and a sixth man of the year.
Yeah.
So I think that's what that's all about. I think the reason why Max played more in the fourth quarter, maybe why he's played more, a little comfort level, maybe not looking for his shot first and foremost, maybe more confidence and being able to knock down that shot and catch and shoot situations better as a rebounder or maybe overall as a defender at this point. I know we've seen improvement from Tyler as a defender. He did not have that today. Like defensively, he was out of place.
I feel so bad for him because that clip, the Steph Curry just mixing him around like a blender. Like that's going to just be played over and over and over again. And people are going to point to that and say that Tyler Herro is a terrible perimeter defender. And I just say he's actually improved a lot this season. His isolation numbers defensively are actually really, really good. But also that was Steph Curry doing Steph Curry things, and that's just it's tough though because that thing went.
I texted you this, and I'm going to put it out there to the Twitter sphere or whatever our listeners. I think Tyler was like trying to prove a point going up against Jordan Poole. Like they weren't matched up directly, but knowing that Poole is often in that conversation as they were last year as a peer of Tyler's, they got similar contracts.
Poole got a bigger contract, more small, yeah.
So I feel like that's probably a factor for Tyler. Like he wanted to go and show that he was a better player.
Oh, you thought he was forcing it? You thought he was forcing it a little bit? Yeah, I agree. Absolutely. I don't disagree. And then I thought Jordan Poole actually kind of went the other way, and he had it. He was more efficient, but kind of more quiet. And he wasn't very good either tonight. Neither Tyler Herro nor Jordan Poole were very, very effective. I didn't think tonight. I do think, going back to Timmy's question, that the concern is a little misplaced. I don't think that Max Strus is the guy taking Tyler Herro's minutes. I think it's Gabe Vincent. All right, going into the season, I thought the closing lineup was going to be Kyle Lowry, Tyler Herro, Max Strus, Jimmy Butler, Bam Adebayo. It turns out that more often than not, Spoelstra in the fourth quarter is going with Kyle Lowry and Gabe Vincent in the backcourt with Strus, Butler, and Bam. So I don't think it's just white guy thing. I do think that it's Gabe Vincent taking Tyler Herro's minutes here. And the reason for that is because I think just Spo trusts Gabe Vincent as a defender. He's a better defender. And maybe even a little bit more as a ball handler and a guy who could get guys into their spots a little bit more. That's at least my feel for it. Gabe Vincent, he's also a guy who can defend like full court. You know, he's going to pick up full court a lot of times. Tyler Herro is just not really able to do that. And so when you're getting into crunch time and you kind of want to pick up the intensity of your defense, I think Gabe Vincent makes a lot of sense there. So especially because they're not going with Caleb Martin in fourth quarters right now.
And Victor Oladipo still hasn't played yet, and we have no idea where we're going to get it from him. So I think that there's a possibility that neither of them will be on the fourth quarter if Victor is able to return to the form that we expect him to, or that we.
I do think that also Tyler Herro will eventually be in the fourth quarter in the closing lineups. I don't think this matters. To your point, the contract has nothing to do with this. Daniel writes in, we need Big Yurt, but he seemed to regress with his injury. Or is Miami just being over conservative with his ankle? We've got news today that Yurtseven was actually sent home from the road trip. He was initially expected to stick with the Heat the entire 3-game trip, but the Heat sent him home early just to work on that ankle. Eric Spoelstra saying, hey, they're not concerned. It was just a maintenance thing. I don't know. I think they're maybe underplaying it. I'm just trying to read between the lines here because they've been saying that all along, and Yurtseven hasn't played all season, right? So he's going to miss at least 7 games to start the year, but are they being over conservative? I don't know. But I'm a little concerned, a little bit.
I don't think I don't think you can say he's regressed because we haven't seen him like regress in terms of like his overall health because they sent him back. I don't know if that's necessarily something.
Regress with his injury. I'm reading like I read it the same way you did it first, but yeah, it's a good point. Regress with his injury. So did he take did he have a setback injury wise?
I think Miami has learned their lesson, and I think they royally screwed the pooch a few years ago with Justice Winslow, Dion Waiters, and others, and they've done that periodically over the course of the last few seasons, and they've kind of turned in the opposite direction now, where they'd rather be more cautious. They were more cautious for Victor Oladipo, and that led to some frustration on his end. And you know what? Maybe it was the right approach, and we'll never know. Players will always jockey for the right to play, I think, unless they know that they're not healthy and they can't contribute, like with Justice Winslow. And I know nobody wants to bring that name up, but he thought he was, in a lot worse shape. He had an issue with the Heat medical staff kind of disregarded it to some degree, and they wanted him to play out there. They thought he would be more of a factor, and he wasn't quite ready. So
you think they're just being overly careful with you're going over conservative, being cautious?
I think so. I mean, with the big man with foot injuries, like we've seen historically, those are really problematic. You look at Joel Embiid. I mean, trying to fight through plantar fascia issues. I mean, that kind of torpedoes their whole chance of competing for a title. He's not going to get any better over the course of the season. We saw Goran Dragic try to play his way through that as a guard at 6'4", 6'5". I mean, that's completely different than trying to put on Embiid 300 pounds or Yurtsevic's 270 pounds like that. You
and you can see already pressure. Even with Oladipo, with the tendinosis thing, they're being really conservative with that too. Yeah. I think it's partly just because it's the beginning of the season and coaches across the league, teams, front offices, medical staffs across the NBA are a little bit more cautious at this point. You would think there shouldn't be because they're just coming off of offseason stuff, but this is the way the NBA sort of trends is they are overly cautious with injuries to start the season. If this were the playoffs, maybe Yurtsevic's in the rotation. Yeah. I don't know. I do think at this point, though, Yurtsevic will end up getting the backup center minutes over Dedmon. We didn't see Dedmon tonight. We saw a whole lot of Nikola Jovic. He was hurt.
Also with plantar fascia issues of his own.
Yeah, I think that might have been a little bit of an excuse, but now I'm just that's just I'm not reporting that. I'm not reporting
we should mention Nikola Jovic. I'm sure people will want to hear about it.
Up and down night overall. I thought he struggled against Golden State's veteran starters, but was a really important part of that second quarter run.
I think it's just, again, the threat of him offensively. He knows what to do. He's got nice touch, comfortable shooting it from 3-point range. At the same time, defensively, he is really out of place. And I think that's something, look, he's young, not used to the NBA game. He'll learn eventually. Yeah. I have to assume that he will. I just don't. He can't get any worse at this point. Like he's already.
You can't assume that he was going to be any better than this. I don't know what people were expecting. He hasn't. Like he's 19. He's never played in the NBA. He's playing out of position, David. He's playing center for the first time in his entire life. I don't know if people thought he was going to be in position defensively. I'm with you.
He's a backup point guard. That's what he should put him on.
He's got great feel for the game. You're right about the things that he could do offensively. You see it. He had like this really great rebound and then drop step to get to the basket. He ended up missing a layup, I think he ended up kicking it out of there. But you just see like he knows offensively where to be on the court. Defensively, he's completely lost. But again, he's playing a position he's never played before in a league that he's never played in. So yeah, good point. All right. That'll do it for us tonight. Thanks again for making Locked On Heat your first listen every day. Remember to subscribe to new episodes of Locked On Heat on your favorite podcast app and on YouTube. Ring the bell to get notified as soon as new episodes go up. Thank you for making Locked On Heat your first listen. For your next listen, check out the Locked On Sports Today podcast, the biggest stories of the day, plus instant reactions, big game recaps, and the take of the day. It's available on the Odyssey app, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts. Thanks for joining me, David.
Yeah, no podcast on Saturday after the Kings game, but we'll have you up to date after that.
Monday.